Yesterday, I should have listened to him. Obama officials said, don't expect much in this speech tonight. Forget exactly what they said. It was going to be pragmatic. It wasn't going to be magical. That's what they said. Don't expect any magic. It's going to be pragmatic. I should have listened to them. Today, they're saying, don't expect a big bounce out of the convention because the country's too divided. There's too much partisanship. There can't be a big bounce because everybody's made up their minds. We shall see. We also have done something. It's amazing, by the way, when you hear it, how similar Obama's speech last night was to Jimmy Carter's in 1980. It really is kind of stunning. And we'll do an A-B side-by-side comparison of that, let you hear it. But first we start in Freedon, New Jersey. Mark, great to have you. You're up first on Open Line Friday. Hi.
Well, mega one of the 89 million dittos, Sir Rush.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Last night I realized why, or after listening to you this morning in the opening monologue, I realized why I love you so much. Because evidently we felt the exact same way last night. I sat down in the chair and I turned on Fox and I said, I'm going to watch this speech even though I don't feel well. I felt so poorly that I went and took 3 Maalox prior to the speech. This is not a joke. I am not over-exaggerating. I did literally do that. And I sat there and I watched him walk out on stage to some of the oddest music, first off, that I've ever heard at a convention. It was mellow. It was not uplifting. It was nothing patriotic. I was kind of sitting there going, what am I watching? He didn't stride out on the floor. He kind of meandered out onto the stage. He did not look like his normal fiery self, and I was concerned, I must admit. I was concerned that if he hit a home run last night, it could have really changed the momentum of the election. He didn't do it. As a matter of fact, I think he lost the election on one line last night, and it's a line I hadn't heard you mention. I was sitting there feeling ill to my stomach, and he said, I am the president. And he stared right at the camera. He snarled at the camera. He snarled at the American people, and he said, basically, screw you guys. I am the president. And I thought, I jumped up out of my chair.
Well, now, I remember that. I didn't quite have that reaction, but I can understand yours. The reaction I had was, duh. Yeah, like we didn't know that.
I jumped up out of my chair, Rush, and I said, you just lost the election. You don't throw that in the American people's face. We already know we made a mistake last time. I didn't vote for him last time, I promise you that. But those that did, that were already feeling poorly about their choice, he reinforced it to them, say, na, 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 you screwed up. And I am the president.
No, I can see your point. It might have served him well not to remind us that he was president. Grab soundbite 4. I decided moments ago not to play this, but now it might fit, as it is interesting. This is Obama from the convention last night, and he did say, I'm the president. I don't have the context here. I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but he did say it. But this was also a very curious thing to say.
You see, the election 4 years ago wasn't about me. It was about you.
What?
My fellow citizens, you were the change. If you turn away now, if you buy into the cynicism that the change we fought for isn't possible, well, change will not happen.
This is stunning. In 2008, he was the one. In 2008, he was the Messiah. In 2008, he was the one we were waiting for. All of that. He was the empty canvas on which you could paint any picture. You could make Barack Obama anything you wanted him to be. 4 years later, it's on you. 4 years later, this debacle is all on you. That election wasn't about me. This is a phony attempt at humility, number one. But number two, he's trying to ladle this audience with guilt. It's up to them, us, if you will, to see to it that he has the opportunity to stay president. I don't know. I found it. Let's do a couple Obama-Carter comparisons. Here's last night. The similarities are striking here. Barack Obama compared to Jimmy Carter in 1980. Not quite carbon copies, but they are close. Here's Obama trying to cast himself as FDR.
The truth is, it will take more than a few years for us to solve challenges that have built up over decades.
Stop the tape a minute. Stop. Well, wait a minute now, because this is another thing. All during this convention, Captain and I looking at each other, said, didn't he say that if he hadn't turned this around 3.5 years, he's a one-termer? Yes, he did say that, Maude. He said it. He said it to a number of journalists. Now, we've had the tape. Everybody's been airing it, by the way. It's been all over Fox. We've had the soundbite. 3.5 years, if he doesn't get it done, it's a one-term proposition. Now, and cue that to the top, Mike, now it's going to take more than a few years to solve challenges built up over decades. This guy hates Reagan, by the way. Here's what he's trying to convince people, that the 30 years of conservatism, Reagan from the 80s, the 30 years gave us what we're having now. The 30 years of Reagan with an interruption for Bill Clinton. 8 years of Clinton. But 30 years of Reaganomics, conservative ideology, gave us this economy, all this unemployment. And he wants people to believe, and I thought I could fix it in 3.5 years. It's going to take longer than that. It's worse than I knew. They didn't tell us how bad it was. When I took office in 2009, they didn't tell me how bad it was. It's worse than anybody ever knew. Bush lied. He didn't tell me how bad it was. We've just discovered how bad it was. And it's going to take much longer than anybody thought to fix this. That's where he's coming from. That's his perspective. Here's the bite again in toto.
The truth is, it will take more than a few years for us to solve challenges that have built up over decades. It'll require common effort and shared responsibility and the kind of bold, persistent experimentation that Franklin Roosevelt pursued during the only crisis worse than this one.
FDR's experimentation, that's a whole other subject. Here's Jimmy Carter saying the same thing, almost.
We have a memory of Franklin Roosevelt 40 years ago, when he said that there are times in our history when concern over our personal lives are overshadowed by our concern over what will happen to the country we have known. This is such a time, and I can tell you that the choice to be made this year can transform our own personal lives and the life of our country as well.
It's amazing. How do we ever elect that guy? When I hear that, how in the heck did anybody ever vote for that? But anyway, you see the similarities, and there are more. We'll be back.